My name is Lily, and I am a self-diagnosed plant hoarder. I started getting into plants when I was really small. My mom, my grandmother, my aunt, all the women in my family were always into plants, and so as I became older, I started collecting them myself. Hi. And then when I moved to St. Petersburg, Florida, about 2.5 years ago, I started really getting into them a lot more. I started learning what rare plants were and what philodendrons and alocasia and all that good stuff. I got obsessively into collecting them and learning all I could about them. I felt like it was a challenge, and it kept my mind occupied while we were all stuck at home during the pandemic. And as with everything else, once I get into something, I just have to figure out how to get it done properly. So I learned a lot about aroids, Hoyas, pretty much all of my plants in the last couple of years, and I know that there's a lot of you out there that are starting your plant journey and are completely lost or just need tips here and there. So my friends kept encouraging me to open a YouTube channel or share my knowledge in one way or another, and so here I am. This is gonna be fun. So I think I'm gonna start today with just walking you around my apartment and my porch and my outside plants, just to show you everything I've been able to collect and somehow keep alive over the last few years. And hopefully I'll see you next week. Okay, so first we'll start with the living room. As you can see, there's not a lot of natural lighting except for that corner during the day, so I've had to add a couple grow lights in the two specific sections where I keep plants in the living room. The first area that I set up is this little shelf that I got, I think it was from TJ Maxx a couple years ago, that I absolutely fell in love with. And this is where I have my trailing philodendrons, and I also have Shindapsus exotica, which is this one up here. It's gotten huge. I think it was actually my first plant that I bought when I moved to St. Pete. Then we have a philodendron mecans green form, and it's right next to the regular mecans. You can kind of tell the differences in how dark the leaf is on this one versus just the green form, and you're also able to notice the different color of the stems and the petioles. This one is super green and this one is more dark brown-ish. Then down here we have a few more trailing philodendrons. You have the lemon lime, which is a very slow grower for me for some reason. I've actually had it for 2 years, and this is as big as I've been able to get it. Then I have this variegated heartleaf, which I got from my friend Alex for Christmas a couple years ago. Actually, it was a year ago. And it has grown really well for me. It seems to be really like this indirect or pretty direct lighting here that I set up for her. And then here we have my philodendron Rio. And I just love how weird the leaves are growing with this like crazy variegation. You can tell it's a Rio by the color of the variegation. So you have this like cream color as well as like a silver gray color. And then down here I have a couple others. This is a Cebu blue, and then this is a Monstera slipticana. I definitely said that wrong, but I am quite aware I said it wrong, and it's okay. For some reason, this plant really hates me. I can't seem to make her happy, and I know it's because she wants to be outside, but I'd rather look at her. So I'm really being selfish by keeping her here, but at least I'm aware of it. So I guess that's okay. This is my dog, Simba. Say hi, Simba. Go, puppy. He likes attention. He's my little shadow, and he's 10. All right, Simba. Then we have this little section here, which I just set up a couple months ago to keep all of my crawling philodendrons here. So the first one that I have here is a pastasanum. This is a philodendron that likes to crawl along the floor. So it's in a pot that I got from Target. It's long and it's not too high, so it won't have too much soil. It's still adapting to this little area. And then this is a Plumanii, which is one of my first crawling philodendrons. I really love how variegated this one is, and I really love how textured the leaves are. It seems to be really loving this spot because it's right in front of a light and right next to the humidifier. And then over here I have my very first crawler that I ever got. I actually shared this one with my friend Alex when I first got it, and I have propagated it so many times, but it's a really easy plant to keep. And then here is a new hybrid that is related to the gloriosum. It's a cross between the gloriosum and a Macaulay's finale, I believe, or another Macaulay hybrid. And this one is called Summer Glory. It's also a crawler, and it looks a lot like the gloriosum, except it's not as velvety as the gloriosum is. It's more shiny, and then the veins have like this like orange shade to it, and the leaves come out like this beautiful orange, like copper color. So I've been growing it out for a couple months, and hopefully it starts to like this area where I've put her. And then the last area that I have to show you inside is our office. I work from home, so I'm pretty much in this room Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and it's probably my favorite room in the house because it has all of my favorite philodendrons in here, and it makes me just really happy to look at when I'm working. So it's definitely my favorite room for sure. This one here is my Philodendron Jose Bueno. It's a variegated plant, and it has very good genes, as you can see by this leaf here that is like almost 80% variegated. Here is one of the plants that I never thought I would have, just because I'm really not into Signoniums normally, but my friend gifted me a cutting of this plant, and it's done really well for me in this little area. I just kind of hide it between my Philodendron Jose and my Mexicanum, which is this big bad boy over here. I really love the Mexicanum. It was one of my first aeroids that I ever really wanted, and the reason for that is the shape of the leaf and how dark of a green it has on top. And then in addition to that dark color on top, it has this like almost like a maroon brown copper color under the leaves, and the petioles and stems are also slightly brown when they first come out, and then they turn green. And then I'm not sure if you caught it, but this is not a Mexicanum leaf. This is my Billy, which is right next to it. They look very similar. You can kind of see the differences in between the two leaves. This one has like, I call them ears that just kind of open to the side, whereas the Billy goes straight back. And then you can also tell the difference in the petioles. The petioles on the Billy are more orange colored, and the growth pattern is also different. Also, the Billy doesn't have that beautiful coloration in the bottom. It just has beautiful veins. I mean, I guess it's beautiful also, but all right, to each their own. Anyways, this is my Monstera alba. I got it as a cutting in a trade that I did locally about a year ago, and I've kind of just been struggling with it a little bit because I didn't realize that it was root bound. So what ended up happening is the last leaf that came out was really small, and I couldn't understand why, because it had really beautiful variegation and it was also fenestrated. So once I realized it was root bound, it actually, the only reason I realized it is because it cracked the pot open. So whoops. Won't let that happen again. And then here is my variegated pedatum. It's one of my favorite plants, and it actually, I started it as a 2-leaf cutting from a local friend here, and it has taken me over a year to grow it out to this size, but it has been a really easy grower for me, just kind of slow because of how high the variegation is. But as you can tell, it's beautiful and I just love staring at it, so I'm just happy I have it. And then next to it is my Monstera Thai Constellation. It's probably the easiest Monstera I have to grow. I mean, honestly, I always preferred the variegation on the elbow more, but the Thai Constellation is just so much easier to grow, and it's just a gratifying plant to grow. It really appreciates all the love that you give it, and it just like does not stop growing. I mean, it was a one node cutting, and before I knew it, it was growing out 2 growths. So I actually have 2 different growth points coming from the same node. Actually it's 2 nodes, my bad. But it grew super fast, and I've actually had it for less than a year. And look how big it has gotten and the beautiful variegation that it has. Then down here I have a few other babies. So this is an Anthurium. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. Actually it's Anthurium morona. Then here there is a Sygnonium Rayi, I think it is. Yes, Rayi. Here is a Hoya. This is one of 2 Hoyas that I keep inside. I just don't think it would appreciate the heat in Florida. This is my Polynera, which I started as a 1 node cutting, and it has gotten huge in the last year. It was one of my first Hoyas actually. And then here is one of my favorite Anthuriums I have. It's an Anthurium pallidiflorum. I know I butchered that, but it's one of my favorites for sure. I love long droopy leaves on Anthuriums, and this one is velvety and shiny, and I just love coming over here and touching it. If you don't touch your plants, you're doing something wrong for sure. So this is my view when I sit to do work, and I gotta say it's a great view to have, but it's also very distracting at times. But I wouldn't change it. I honestly am in love with every single plant in this little corner, and I could not move them anywhere else. We'll start on this section. So this is my Philodendron painted lady. She's one of my favorites. I know I've probably said that 5 times already, but I do love her. She has a pink coral colored stem, and I love her. When she grows roots, they come out pink, and I think that's awesome, so I love her. This is my Philodendron Paradiso Verde, and it was actually a tricky plant for me to grow at first because I was not giving it the proper lighting, and it was losing this beautiful variegation that you've come to know from Paradiso Verdes. It was turning almost all green, and but finally I found the right location for her, and it's doing really well. One of my favorite things about the Paradiso is, if you could, I don't know if you can see it, but on the leaves it has like this pink coral red colored margins. I don't think you can see it, but I hope you can. I think you can. Anyways, so that's my Paradiso, and then here is my very first Verrucosum I ever had. I believe it's Verrucosum number 5, which I know sounds like a Chanel perfume, but no, it's Verrucosum number 5, and it came from Ecuagenera. I got it as a cutting from a friend of mine who got it from Ecuagenera, and it has fuzzy petioles, which I love to just pet. But I've cut this Verrucosum so many times, and it just keeps coming back stronger every time. It's definitely one of my favorites. Then down here I have a lot of humidity, but this is my Anthurium magnificum, and I've struggled with the magnificum, as you can tell by these like weirdly shaped leaves. I think I just wasn't giving it consistent humidity, and I'm trying to do better at that. Obviously it's right next to the humidifier, so this new leaf seems like it's doing well. Fingers crossed that it'll grow big and beautiful. And then here I have, it's an Anthurium crystallinum Mahani. Mahani. And this was actually also a cutting from a friend. My friend Ralph really had a beautiful collection of Anthuriums, and most of my Anthuriums actually came from trades I did with him, and this was one of them. This is my Anthurium clanibarium dark form. It's right next to the regular form Anthurium. You can kind of see the difference in the darkness of the leaves, but the shape of the leaf is literally the same. So if I was to pick one of the two, I would certainly pick the dark form, just because I love how much the veins pop with the dark background. But I mean, it's not that huge of a difference, so if you can't find this one looks pretty much the same. And then it's giving me, they have not stopped giving me blooms, so I've tried to pollinate them, but I'm not very good at it. But we'll keep trying. And then this is my new leaf. It's been growing out for about 2 weeks and it just has not stopped, so we'll see how big it gets. And down here we have a couple more. This one is a crystallinum dark form. There. I've been struggling with it. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it'll bounce back, but we'll see. Who knows? And then here is a Anthurium silver flush. I've also been struggling with this one, but it's giving me a new leaf, which looks pretty good so far, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed and hoping for the best. And then here is a plant that I knew I was gonna love the second I saw it the very first time. It's a Signonium japense. They're not velvety, they're like, they feel like rubber leaves. They really don't look real. They look like a leaf that you'd find in a plastic plant at Michael's. The color is like super dark. It's shiny, but it's also like velvety almost when you touch it, and the leaves have just grown huge over time. I've had it for about a year. I've never cut it because I really want to get to those adult size leaves, and I'm getting there, so I may have to cut it soon, but for now I'm just gonna enjoy how beautiful they are. And then here, believe it or not, this is not a Philodendron Milano. This is a Philodendron gigas. The leaves have just gotten humongous. I mean, they're larger than my hand. And I got this one as a cutting from my friend in Colorado. As you can see, it was like this little tiny leaf. No, this one. And I've had it for about a year and a half, and it really just loves that moss pole situation that I have going on there. And it has been doing really great. As you can tell, it's really close to a grow light. There it is. And I think it likes that. And then back here is my second Hoya that I have inside. This is a Hoya linearis. It's very fuzzy, and it's not the easiest plant to grow. It definitely doesn't like the heat in Florida, so I don't take it outside. I just kind of leave it here, and every time it gets too long, I wrap the tendrils around the pot, and that's it. That is my office tour. I hope you enjoyed it, and here's my cat Lex. Say bye, Lex. Probably my very first huge plant obsession was begonias, and because of that I started collecting a very large amount of them, and I gotta admit I've kind of neglected them a little bit as of late, but they're very easy plants to grow. They just require a lot of cutting and rerooting because they start to get tall and leggy, and that's where I need to be better. That's why the top ones are so tall, and I'm trying to get there, but I'll show you a few of my favorites. So this one is probably my favorite one. This is an Eric Seal begonia. It's a very old begonia. Not old to me, I'm saying it's a very old hybrid, and it's a beautiful begonia. It's like super velvety and shiny, and it gets really big. As you can tell, the leaf is bigger than the palm of my hand. Over here was one of my first begonias. It's a begonia Sinbad. It's slightly pink, and the leaves are super textured and almost like hairy. I love touching this one. Down here I have a batwing begonia, and it's one of my favorites as well. It's super dark, and you can see the stems are like a red color. I believe the bloom is pink. I mean, I'm not huge on begonia blooms, but I feel like they're more of a mess than anything else. But you know, they're supposed to bloom. And then here is another one of my favorites. This is a Guy Savard begonia, and I just love how much silver it has and how it's red in the bottom of the leaf, and it also just stays small. I've had this begonia for like 2 years, and this is the biggest size leaf I've ever gotten. So I love it. It's small, easy to care for, and beautiful. Another one I really like is this one. This one is my Catherine 2 begonia. As you can tell, I have a pattern of what I like in begonias. I like dark leaves with silver texture and red. Those are my favorite things to have in a begonia, and that's why I have so many of them. This one is a really prolific grower. I love this one, but it kind of looks, so there's two that look very similar, Frosty and Don Miller. So let's see which one this one is, because I can't even tell them apart. This is Frost, and then this here is Don Miller. I don't know if you can tell them apart. I struggle with it, so I don't know. Maybe one day I will. Down here is one of my Steve Leaves hybrid. This is a Begonia Titan. It's supposed to be the largest begonia angel wing leaf that exists. This one got a little burnt. So usually when the leaves are this bad, I just cut them with my nail, because we don't need that negativity. Here's another Titan leaf. It's beautiful. Not the easiest plant to grow, not the easiest begonia to grow, but certainly a beautiful one. And then down here, hiding behind this big pot, I hope there's no frogs, is my flamingo. It was one of my first begonias I ever got, and I really love the flamingo because the dots on the leaves get really big, and they just look really beautiful against the green of the leaf. And it also has like a border of silver around the leaf. If you notice, it's like almost fully silver down to the little tail, or what I call the tail. I don't know what it's called. So those are my favorite begonias. In that corner we have a Santa Rita cactus, which I got from a local plant store, and it has like doubled in size in the last year. And then here is my desert rose collection, as well as my favorite cactus. I call it my fuzzy old man, but I know it's not called old man. I have an old man cactus over there, and this is not it. This is more of a flat paddle type of hairy cactus. I mean, look at the hairs on this thing. But I've had this cactus for 3 years, and when I got it, it was about this size, like this tall, and it was only one. I've propagated it, I've given some to friends, and now look at how tall it is. I have to have it up against something, and each one of its paddle needs a bamboo stick of its own because it's just so big. It like moves in the wind, and it's actually beautiful. It's like beautiful hair flowing in the wind when it's really windy out here. But these are my desert roses, my favorite ones anyways. I have one that's blooming. She's not too impressive, I don't know if you can even see it with the lighting in here, but she's yellow and has a little bit of pink on the edges of the petals, and she's really beautiful. Then we go to probably everyone's favorite section, which is where all my aeroids and Hoyas are. So here are my moss pole aeroids. I made the moss poles myself. I got the supplies from Home Depot and Amazon, and so just I guess show you a few of them. This is my Monstera Peru. I really love the leaves because of how textured and how dark they are, and they get huge if you give them something to climb, which I love. Back here is my Joy. And he really is a joy to have. Yes, I meant that. That's a pun. Anyways, so the back of the leaves are beautiful too, because you can, okay, I'm finding really terrible examples, but you can see the margin of the veins on the leaves in a darker color, which is beautiful. Then over here is my golden dragon. Okay, here's a good example. So this plant will get humongous if you let it climb up a tree, but the best that I can do is give it a nice moss pole. I just love how toothy it is. I don't know, it's just beautiful just a stunning leaf. And then down here, I have my Camposportum, which I'm trying to propagate again. So that's why the leaves look droopy, but I have gotten it finally to the adult form. This is what a Camposportum looks like when it's big, when it reaches adulthood. And then this is what the leaf looks like when it's in its juvenile form. It's velvety, it's darker, and then this is the adult form of the same plant. Huge difference, same plant. And this is a Philodendron squamiferum. I know I said that wrong, but whatever. Beautiful petiole. It's like a red, like a dark red color, and it's like super fuzzy. This leaf got eaten by something, but I'm not mad about it. It was probably a caterpillar, and I'm okay with it. You can see the red veins in the bottom. Whoops. Red veins in the bottom, which I love, and they stay that way all the way until the leaf stops growing. But look how beautiful this leaf is. I know, it's beautiful. Alright, so in this section I have a little tension rod that I got at a local plant store, which I used to hang my orchids from, and they seem to be liking it there so far. This is my hairy pig orchid, which I haven't bloomed yet, but I'm very excited for. And there's a few others back there. In this section I also have my cactus. There's also aloes, various succulents, really weird plants that I'm kind of slightly obsessed with, and just a bunch of stuff that requires very high light. And this is what I mentioned earlier, which is my old man cactus. This one's actually prickly and it has less hair on it, and it's a round cactus rather than a paddle leaf cactus. This one is one of my favorites. It's really fuzzy and beautiful. Alright, so this is probably everyone's favorite area in my porch, which is where I keep my Hoyas. At the top are my oldest and biggest ones. This is, I think, the second Hoya I ever got. I struggled with her for a long time because A, carriers are not the easiest, and B, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But that's the story of how I got that big. And then here is one of my favorites. This is a Meridithii. It has this like giant leaf. This is the last one that it gave me, and it's absolutely beautiful. And then down here I have a few that are growing, so I keep them up here so I can keep a good eye on them until they get larger. This is my Acuta variegated. Here's my Mitrata, which is one of my favorite Hoyas. Here is, I think this is just a Finlandsonii type. Yeah, not sure what Finlandsonii, but it's beautiful. I love Finlandsonii. This is a Australis alba marginata, which I got really tiny as 2 nodes. This is a Rincy Borneo. No, I'm sorry. A Corneria, not a Rincy Borneo. Over here you have an RHM. This is RHM 1307. It's one of my favorites because of the dark veins on the leaves. Then down back here hiding is a variegated Burtonia. You can also see it down here. The only downside to this plant is that after a while the variegation reverts back to green. But while you can actually see the variegation, it's absolutely beautiful. Back here is one of my favorites. This is a Hoya Crescentia. I said that wrong, but whatever. It's beautiful, but it's tiny still. But let me see if I can show you the older leaves. Look how beautiful that is. So I'm very excited to see that one grow out. There's one of my more needy Hoyas over here. I don't know why I struggle with it so much, but it's an elliptica. Don't know why, just doesn't like me. But I'm still struggling. I really want her to do well. This is one of my favorite Hoyas. It's a Hoya insularis. I like it just because of how weird it is. It doesn't even look like a Hoya. And the blooms are actually very beautiful, so I'm looking forward to hopefully blooming it next year. Definitely didn't bloom this year, but we'll see. Down here I have a lot of Hoyas that are trellised because they've gotten really big. This one is a Dakii chicken farm cross. It has gotten really big in the last year. Let me see what else I want to show you. Oh, over here is one of my favorite Hoyas. It's a Macrophylla or Latifolia pot of gold. I really love how the new grows. Can you see that? Kind of. It comes out like a pinkish coral color, and then it turns into this like beautiful yellow color. The leaves have gotten huge, but I recently cut it, and that's why it looks kind of small. This is a Hoya clemensorium, and these leaves will get humongous. The original leaf that came with this plant was bigger than the palm of my hand, and it's slowly getting there. But I really love it. I love how the veins look and how sharp the edges are. And here's my actual Rinsey Borneo. It's like super velvety and shiny and splashy. Here is my Pachiclata Alba marginata. It's one of my favorite Hoyas. I actually got it a year ago. I recently cut it. It was already up to here, but I cut it for the first time to propagate. And it's just, it's the leaves don't even feel real. I mean, they're super thick and they feel like a succulent. But I really love this Hoya. And then down here, I have a few extra big ones. Let me see. This is just a regular compacta that I've managed to grow without murdering it. I always murder them for some reason. But here's one of my favorite Hoyas. This is a SPSV PNG 432. It's a lot of numbers, but it's a beautiful Hoya. Its sun stress is beautiful, like this beautiful red color, and you can actually, the veins pop up even more once it sun stresses. But yeah, this is my little Hoya corner, and this is where sometimes I come to drink my coffee or just sit and watch them. We have like a colony of lizards that live in my porch, and I love it because there's always a lot of them, and salamanders and geckos. If I had to guess, there's probably 30 different ones down here. And they're just really fun to watch. They also keep the bugs away, and they run away when I water my plants. But they're happy here, and yeah, that's it for the porch. Never mind, that's not it. I forgot to show you this section. It's the section that's behind the chair where I sit to have coffee, and it has a lot of other smaller Hoyas that I'm still watching. I like to keep an eye on the ones that are still small. And there's a bunch of small leaf ones back here. There's also a wasp nest, which I really hate wasps, but here it is, and it lives back here, and I really want it gone, but maybe one day it'll leave on its own. But yeah, this is my other little Hoya section. There's a bunch of big ones down here. This is my Hoya incensus. This is my Hoya nervosa, which I got as a cutting from my friend Alex. And this is my fungi, which I've struggled with for some reason, but it seems to be doing well now. And this is my Hoya multiflora, which is the Hoya that blooms the most for me, and it's in this beautiful, beautiful pot. I don't even remember where I got the pot, but I got the Hoya from my friends Erica and Junior, and honestly, it's one of my favorites because it just never stops blooming. It has a peduncle here, it has another one here, and it's actually dropped a few of them in the last few months for some reason, but it's just always blooming. So yeah, these are my Hoyas. Well, I hope you liked my first video. I plan on covering a bunch of different subjects in the next few weeks, anywhere from repotting, potting mixes, pest control, fertilizing, propagation, anything that I can think of that I think you guys might find useful. I plan on doing my best to cover. I'm going to try to do this at least once a week, maybe every couple of weeks if I'm too busy with work and miscellaneous plant things. But I hope you enjoyed it. Please do all the YouTube things that'll trick the algorithm into showing showing you next week's video. So like, subscribe, comment, share, or whatever it is that you're supposed to do. And I hope to see you next week. Thanks. Bye.